Welcome to another episode of the Online Prosperity Experience podcast. You're about to hear your host, Prosper Taravinga's powerful digital marketing strategies and actionable tactics that you can use right now. Prosper has helped more than 50,000 people from over 10 countries to create meaningful businesses that are profitable and enjoyable. Listen to this podcast so that you too can build your own business with less stress and overwhelm. Let's get started.
When was the last time you gave your business a trim? I mean, a proper zhuzh, where you really checking every system, every employee, every website, every tool, everything that makes your business tick. I mean, there's nothing quite like experiencing the magic of maybe having a hairstylist cut your hair with scissors and then showing you the mirror behind you and saying, hey, what do you think? You take it through an entire transformation, going from maybe you walked in and you look like you were almost about to die, or you look like death, and then you suddenly are transformed and refreshed in less than an hour, and there's a whole new you in the mirror and the back mirror, and then you looking at others from the corner of your eye just to see if they notice the transformation in you. And sometimes you actually feel at least 5 years younger, when you walk out of the saloon, with a smile. One of the first things, I don't know why, but a lot of people tend to want to go into a coffee shop just so they can stand one-to-one with somebody else, and then that person can comment about their hair. I don't know. Check yourself the next time that happens. When you walk out of that saloon, you've got to bounce to your step. You feel like $1 million. But if you're a billionaire, I'm sorry if it makes you feel a little bit less. But, you feel like $1 million and you really feel confident about yourself. And you know what? It actually shows. And that's a pretty sort of drastic, rejuvenation. When we look at ourselves in the mirror every single day, we tend to associate our vision of ourselves with our own identity. You see, I used to have very long hair that went all the way to my back and was like dreadlocks. And that now became who I was. I was Rasta guy. I used to do things that dreadlocks people only used to do. I even took up acting and modeling, just because my hair gave me this confidence and this persona that I was. Do you know what I mean? And when I cut my hair, a lot of things changed. I became a totally different person to the person that I was, when I had that long hair. So when you have a haircut, it really changes the way you view yourself. Just have a think about it. Just the trim can change your entire mood, your entire outlook, and the impression that you actually project to the world. I used to be this cocky, smoking person, but when I cut my hair, I became well-camped and I became a dad. You know what I mean? I just became a totally different person. And it's your outlook of the world, your impression, that you project to the world. And do you know how many therapists actually claim that that kind of success rate for each and every one of their client session, when they actually can change your whole demeanor? Hair stylists should actually become hair therapists instead of you sitting on a couch and then just walking out feeling depleted. If you've gone to a therapist, not that I know what that feels like, and I'm not demeaning your experience with the therapist, but I'm just saying, if you go to a hairstylist, it actually changes your whole persona. What if you could have that feeling about your business? Now, what if you could actually start thinking differently about the way you approach your business, the way you approach your website creation, the way you approach coaching your clients, the way you actually approach reaching out to your clients? Let me tell you something. A regular trim keeps things looking sharp, groomed, and in control. You should have one at least every 4 to 6 weeks, just so that you are in control of things. Can you imagine if you don't cut your hair maybe for between 4 to 6 weeks and you don't make your hair a bit shorter, or maybe regularly, I don't know how long you have to cut your hair, and any longer than maybe a year, without cutting your hair, you start looking a little aged, you start looking a little frumpy, and you look like you don't really care much about yourself and your appearance. And your demeanor around other people will also show, unless you're actually keeping the hair long, but looking after it, shampooing it and washing it, etc., etc. And then the one thing about the type of hair that we all have, no matter whether you're African or you're Caucasian, you start getting knots in your hair. And when you start getting knots in your hair, that is disgusting. All right, you're not Rapunzel, you're repulsing. I like that. You're not Rapunzel, you're repulsing. Fantastic. All right, so just imagine if your business was a person. I mean, just humor me. For a moment, imagine that you've just given your business a haircut. It's dressed to the nines and it's looking sharp and fresh and groomed. Nails cut, everything is in its right place. That's how most businesses start out. Have you ever noticed when you're going out to start a business, you want to make sure your logo is in the right place, your business cards are looking sharp, your website, etc., etc. It's quite fun when we have a client coming in for the first time in our agency, and I do run a fantastic digital agency, by the way, livelongdigital.com.au. Just pop in, say hi, and let's talk about your new adventure and your dreams that you want in your business, and when somebody starts off in business, they want to make sure everything is perfect, and then when you then visit them maybe a year or two down the line, their hair is unkempt, their shirts are not tucked in well, they've probably been to court and back, and maybe they were used to clean the courtroom floor and they're just looking like a man possessed, and this is how a lot of businesses end up, especially coaches and consultants out there. And one thing that I know is we pay great deal of attention to detail when we're only just starting out, and we want everything to look spiffy and speak and span. We want our processes to be streamlined, and we want to come off as credible with social proof. We want everybody to think we're an expert, that we're trusty, they can trust us, or we're trustworthy to all potential clients that we are looking for out there. And clients are drawn by that attractive appeal. All right. But then we get busy, and then we're working hard, trying to fulfill the needs of those customers that we've drawn in. We're answering emails, we're building our readership, or we putting content out there, and, growing our followings on social media, all of that stuff. And we're writing ads, we guest posting and writing lead magnets and doing everything we can do to expand and build and grow our businesses. And then we forget to give our business a regular trim. I can imagine. I understand, and I'm going to say this with utmost love and respect. Growing your own business is tough. You go from cold calling potential clients and having them hang up in your face, sending hundreds of emails without getting as much as, hey, thank you for reaching out, and you're wasting thousands of dollars on ad spend without generating any qualified leads. Now, who has time to look at their website? Who has time to look at how they're dressed? Who has time to look at what emails they're sending? And that's the catch-22. The reason why people are not responding to you is because maybe you haven't personalized, that message. You haven't identified who your target market is. You haven't clarified your message. And sometimes it feels like no one wants to buy from you or whatever it is that you're selling, and it sucks. And when you rely on your business to pay rent and put food on your table, man, that could put an enormous strain on your emotions, and you're terrified, having to give up on your dreams and maybe return to the safe 9 to 5 with your tail tucked between your legs, only because you can't bring in new clients. What if I told you all you needed was a haircut? Sometimes we just forget to give our businesses a regular trim. Because slowly, your business starts to look frumpy and camped, and the same way you would if you stop bothering to take care of yourself. Can you imagine if you stop showering? Just think about that a minute. Or have you ever walked past somebody who hasn't showered only for that day? Now, add another day, you start looking homeless. How many times do we go in and hug homeless people? Yes, I mean, obviously, with love and respect, we reach out to them and then just acknowledge their humanity. But we don't go out hugging them and hanging out with them all that much. You know why? Because maybe they haven't looked after themselves for a very long time. So your business will begin to look like that homeless guy. The one who never seems to care what it looks like. Boy, do you stink. All right? You start thinking, hey, wait a minute. Has this person ever had a haircut? When was the last time they had a shower or change of clothes? Or maybe there's a person that you personally know who you probably bumped into last week, and they half of the time when somebody hasn't looked after their skin, they start looking old and run down, and do you know what I mean? And you're like, wait a minute, this person used to be so pretty, and if you look on TV or on social media, it's practically content for other people, depicting what not to wear, how not to do it, best practices, and all that stuff. It's very easy for us to neglect our businesses as coaches, consultants, and small business owners, because our role is to make sure that we're helping our clients. You know what I mean? As an entrepreneur, marketing is just one aspect of running a successful business. You're hiring and managing new staff, you're balancing books, you're driving growth, and a whole lot more. And it all feels like a constant balancing act where you're pulled in multiple different directions all at once. At the end of the day, I hear you. I can hear you through your earphones right now saying, Prosper, but I'm busy. And my real goal is just to help my clients. None of this stuff. You want to spend as much time as possible changing people's lives and solving people's problems. And you don't want to waste countless hours each day trying to navigate the complex world of online marketing or businessing. And you certainly don't want to spend yet another minute on the phone having to beg people to buy from you or your services. But fortunately, you don't have to. Just have a haircut. I told you about my digital agency. We've got a long list of clients who want to work with us, and it's not because I'm a genius or whatever it is. I'm just well groomed. Go on my website right now, www.livelongdigital.com.au, and you see me beautiful face there. That's how I look in person all the time. Maybe the hair might be a little bit shorter, especially if it's on a Monday when I would have cut my hair, because I'm constantly looking after myself. Even if I'm working from home, I dress like I'm going out, because you never know when Channel 9 is going to need an expert's opinion on certain issues, and they want that opinion immediately, and I have to go on a Zoom crossover and things like that. I don't want to be that guy who has to go and close my door and I'm wearing shorts and I'm not looking the part. All right. At the end of the day, you want to start looking after your business, and never forget to give your business a regular trim. I mean, it's so easy for us to neglect our business. We're so focused on overarching areas, like I said, bringing clients, doing the work, paying the bills, that we completely overlook, the tiniest details that are always begging our attention. It's the little things, all right? The little hinges that swing all these big doors that we think are the business, but small things matter. All right, so a little course correction and quick updates and tiny changes will be, help our clients buy from us. Because if our websites are not looking well out there, they stink. And maybe we can't smell them, but our clients and prospective clients can. All right, because sometimes we think certain things are not important in the grand scheme of things. A slow website or a spelling error here and there. You might think they're not detrimental, but they are. By taking care of these little details, you make a huge difference. Because there's these little regular trims that we do and to ourselves when we book our stylist, we go for our nails or whatever it is. These are the little accessories to our whole outfit of success. So these little trims are like successories. All right, little accessories that we need on our way to success. Like the little cufflinks that we add to a suit just to bring the whole look together, the little brush that we put on our lapels, because prospective clients notice these minor details. And when they see that you don't pay attention to them, it can make them doubt your competence, your ability to take care of their business. I mean, seriously, if you're walking around with boogers on your face, how are you going to make sure that I'm looking beautiful? Yeah. After all, you're not taking good care of your own. So how are you going to be able to look after mine? You see, there's always this thing when you meet a web designer and their website is not up to the standard you want, and you're like, so how do you then know what's good or what's not if you don't experiment on your own? And a lot of people are like, cobblers, kids always don't have shoes. And I'm like, dude, how are you going to look after my website if you can't look after your own? This week, I mean, obviously you've just heard this. Just have a look at stuff that's happening in your website. This week alone, dedicate maybe 3 hours, maybe an hour a day for the next 3 days to just your business, bro. And take a step back from your busyness, from your work, the humdrum. Take a step back from maybe your goals, from your dreams, just everything that you're chasing. Work with what you have as it stands in front of you and make the best of what you absolutely have right now. You could start off with your website, review your processes, walk through, or maybe go through your own sales funnel. Just make a clear list of all the tiny changes and small business improvements that you'd like to make. Maybe there are certain things that are no longer valid that you're still sending, your clients, especially in this online space that we live in. We might have pre-created emails around social media, and maybe certain platforms are no longer in existence just simply because things change, twice as fast than we can actually make changes to them. So that's why regular trims are far more important than you could ever think of. If you're a financial planner, regulations around money, regulations around mortgages and everything else are constantly changing, interest rates and all of that stuff. Are you updating your audience? Are you also updating your website and everything else that you're putting information out there so that people can learn from you? Or maybe you could finally change that button text. And there's wars that are happening in the world right now. And maybe your website has the colors of the country that is oppressing another country. All of those tiny details, because if people are coming from their social media and they've been seeing all these colors in there, they start associating your business with either the good guys or the bad guys. Have a look at small things like that. Maybe you would finally change that button text. Maybe you could take down the old badge on your sidebar. Maybe it's time to update the picture on your About Us page. Maybe you need to put a picture with you with a fresh haircut, of course. And maybe it's time to just get rid of that widget, which is, or sharing buttons, or just change the navigation or give a better user experience. Because some people's websites are still, with the resolution of old computers or old phones. Just check if your website is mobile friendly or is responsive. Maybe just have a look at your packages. Maybe you want to increase your rates, lower your rates, or just look at the difference that you can make to your customers. A little bit of a freshening up, a spring clean, so to speak. And if you can do that regularly and schedule that within your business, I actually schedule increasing the investments that I make to my investment account. Every 3 months, I'm adding that investment by 10%. You know what that actually does? It helps me grow. It helps me know where I'm at, and it helps me know that I'm not being stagnant and coming from a place in a country that has inflation. That means I'm course correcting as I go. I mean, I'm not talking about making massive changes or huge changes that involve a whole sledgehammer. I'm asking you to bring a scalpel, just trim the fat a little bit, just things that no longer work, things that no longer excite you or your customers, etc. You might be on your website right now still giving an offer that you gave maybe last year and you think it's still evergreen or relevant, or maybe you stopped using a certain tool and that tool is maybe where your customers are supposed to be signing up to, and it's just not a good experience for them. Like I said, we're not making big changes here. This isn't a full-on makeover where you have to maybe drop off 12 centimeters of your ponytail or buy your business an entire new wardrobe. Nah, I'm not talking about that. We're just looking for these small improvements that just show your customers, one, that you're current, two, that you care. You see, because right now, saying I love you doesn't necessarily mean you uttering those words, but having the best colors that are homely, having the best user experience for your customers, the best navigation, the right size of the font, the right pictures. All of that stuff is just you telling your prospects that I love you without you telling them. And when people feel the love and the care that you're putting in your own work, then they automatically would assume that that's how you're going to look after them when they start working with you. You're just looking for small business improvements. I'm not asking you to put a sledgehammer on your business, just a tiny scalpel, tiny changes. The type that you can make within 15 minutes or less. And think of yourself as just grooming your business, making these little snips with your scissors, and that only leave very small tufts on the floor that you can just wipe off. When we came back from the lockdowns and everything else, what happened is we noticed that we had so many subscriptions that we no longer needed within our business. I mean, I'm talking over 2,500 worth of monthly subscriptions that we no longer need. And you might be thinking to yourself, who pays 2,500? Well, we've got tools for just about everything. I've got a tool for recording this podcast. I've got a tool to give you this podcast. I've got a tool for my email address. I've got, my website staff has got tools in and around it. So all of those things, trim to see what is still working, what's not working. And what's working, you keep. What no longer works, you ditch. If it's been a while since you've given your business a trim, I mean, don't tackle it all at once. Just small bites is how you eat an elephant. Because if you try and do everything once, then that's grand opening, grand closing. You might just break something that didn't even need you to break. Because at the end of the day, we're here to live, we're here to learn, and we're here to contribute. So when you see something on other people's websites that frustrate you, just take a look at your website and see if that's not the same as well. Instead of you trying to complain about that business, just go and check if yours is actually not giving people that same problem. And like I said, just schedule a weekly trim of like maybe an hour a week and do what you can in that time. I mean, if everything on your lease takes less than 15 minutes to carry out, then you could literally just do a lot more improvements. And now you at least know what needs working on and what you need to outsource and what you need to hire somebody to work on. At least you can also give somebody proper instructions so that they're not going in there and, taking down your whole website. Just those small minor improvements that will actually, constitute you having a trim every single week. So figure out what sort of improvements can you do by the end of this month. Because if you look at it, would your business experience dramatic transformation if you're just tackling one small aspect every single week? Because that literally constitutes you working on your business instead of you working in your business. And once you make those little changes, people then start to notice, the hugeness of your business. And I'm not talking drastic change here. Please hear me out. Because drastic change is only for businesses that have been neglected for so long. I've seen people who still have a 1994 website. I mean, things like that, it's just a little bit too much. And also, one thing that happens is if it's a new year that you've just come into your business, make sure that the copyright section at the bottom corresponds with the year we are in. Because the moment it's 1 year behind or 2 years behind, people won't trust to leave their email address because they don't know if your privacy policy has been updated. All right, so small things like that just make people realize that somebody or a human being is behind this business. Otherwise, people will be like, nah, what if I pay them and nobody responds to my emails, or there's no support after that? You know, it's no longer a cherished, look for you to have an outdated website now, especially when, things are now becoming free and you can get it done cheaper, better, faster by, people on Fiverr or Outwork there, So at the end of the day, when you start looking at what your website is doing or what your business is doing, you can actually have an opportunity to check if your business model is still corresponding to the current events of today. Because at the end of the day, your business won't ever reach that level if you're maybe you won't ever suffer being out of business without realizing it if you're giving it regular trims. Have you ever maybe picked up the phone to ring to see what customers can hear on the other side when they're trying to book consultation with you? Or these days where, you send people a calendar invite, is it intuitive enough, for people to schedule a call with you? Is it easy enough for people to do business with you? Have you ever maybe secret shopped in your own website to try and actually go through with the purchase? How many clicks does it take up until somebody can purchase something from you? Do you know how that experience is like, and how many emails they receive and what comfort they actually receive, from having interacted with your business? And after you've finished all of this, imagine the note of approval that your potential clients would give you. Isn't it worth it? So at the end of the day, I mean, there's a few things that we can do, because as a business owner, you should just strive to improve the quality of your product, your services, your client, interactions, and any of those stuff, because your clients are not just buying from you. They're also buying from other people that are showing that they actually care about them. Nowadays, it's no longer about market share. It's how much you can get from that one particular customer, which then translates to customer share. We're not trying to sell as many products to as many people as possible. No, we're trying to sell, as many products to one customer as possible. So we need to maintain those relationships, and by maintaining those relationships, we need to show that we care to these potential customers. And how do we show that we care? By regularly trimming our business and making sure that we've got efficient systems that actually work and are not creating any bottlenecks in order for people to do business with us. The reason why a lot of coaches and consultants don't grow is because they do things the old way, or their website is pulling them backwards, or their business processes are not, representing who they are, showcasing on the front. They're not willing to learn about the new trends in town, and they prefer doing things the old way, or not trimming their business, or actually making sure that their processes are still relevant. You got to be accountable, and, you got to monitor all the trends and see if you're still viable. And at the end of the day, if you've got a team, motivate them to actually start doing well, and also checking to see if everything is still working in order. At the end of the day, it's not just your business. Their well-being and welfare depends on the existence of that business. So if they're not looking for any faults within the business, if the business closes, then they don't have a job. I mean, maybe they don't care, but at the end of the day, teach the people around you to start noticing when things are starting to crack. Let me tell you something. A regular trim keeps you as a person looking sharp, groomed, and in control. You know, can you imagine what that would do for your business to actually show that you're in control? You know where you're headed to. Because let me tell you something. Our customers are always looking for people to show them the way. Now, if you're not looking camped, or you're not looking like you are in control or know where you're going, then who do you think people are gonna expend their energy, time, money, and effort trying to let you figure stuff out? Don't forget to give your business a regular trim. All right, bye for now.
Thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions, let's continue the conversation in the Live Long Digital community. Become a Live Long Digital community member today. This community is for ambitious entrepreneurs and small business owners with the drive to take control of the future of their businesses and achieve huge success without stress and overwhelm. As you heard, Prosper can help you by teaching you marketing strategies that work. So look no further than the Live Long Digital community of entrepreneurs and highly successful business owners. Join our community today. Find us on www.community.livelongdigital.com.au. Network with other driven entrepreneurs and find the expert guidance you need to take your business to the next level. www.community.livelongdigital.com.au